Okay, so as we said, we're going to do a few homework problems for you. Find the midpoint. Let's see here. Let's take a look at number 9. Let's get off to a good start here. All right, so number 9 says determine whether given segments have the same length. Justify your answer. Well, we can't just get the ruler out. That doesn't work. So they want us to figure out if AB and BC have the same length. Well, first of all, let's find, I'm not going to recreate that picture over there, but let's find the coordinates of AB. So A has a coordinate of, what is that, -1, -2, -3, -4, and +2. And B has a coordinate of 1 and then +4. Okay? And so then we already know what B has. It's got 1, +4. And then C, let's see where that is. Way down there. So it looks like 1, 2, and -1. So 2, -1. All right, so there's the 4 coordinates. Quick review of algebra 2. 4 coordinates that we've got to find the distance of. Because if they want us to justify the answer, we can't just say, well, they look alike. They're almost there. We can't get a ruler out and measure it. That doesn't work. So we're going to use the distance formula twice. Okay, so here we go. So the distance of the segment between A and B is, remember, it's the difference of the x coordinates, quantity squared, plus the difference of the y coordinates, quantity squared. Now, it doesn't matter if I start with this x or this x. It doesn't matter. Okay? So I'm going to start with, but whichever one I start with, I'm going to be consistent. So I'm going to start with A. No reason other than it's the first one I saw. So I'm going to go -4. It's the difference. That means I'm going to then subtract 1, and I'm going to quantity square it. And I'm going to add the difference of the y coordinates. And so 2 minus 4. Now I got to recall some integer work. Don't make that mistake. By the way, I think I have one right here. I'm going to tell you this next week, but everyone needs a scientific calculator. We're not going to provide them with COVID. We want everybody to have their own. So this would work, okay? Just something like that. That's good enough. But everyone's going to need their own calculator, and you need to start getting them now because the stores will run out. So if you need to order it on Amazon, so you have it by next Tuesday. Okay, so everybody needs their own one. All right, so here we go. Let's simplify. I'm going to talk through this. I'm going to keep the square root out wide. -4 minus 1, that's -5. I haven't taken the square of it yet. And then 2 minus 4, that's -2. I haven't taken the square of that yet. Taking my time here. -5 times -5, that's what you do when you square it. That's 25. And then -2 times -2, that's +4. And so it looks like we're going to have the square root of 25 plus 4, which is the square root of 29. All right, so let's leave it like that. Now, I know a lot of you would want to put that in your calculator and you get an approximation. What would that be? 5.3 something, approximately. Okay, it's not 6 and it's not 5. It's in between 5 and 6. Okay, so that does AB. That's the distance of, or the length of AB. Right there. I would leave it as a square root of 29. Okay, so right there. All right, now let's do BC. All right, so D, which is the length of BC, we're going to go the difference of the x coordinates. Doesn't matter which one I choose. I'm going to do the 1 again. So 1 minus 2, quantity squared, plus 4 minus, careful now, put that square root all the way over the sign. Careful, 4, and we're taking the difference, so it's minus a negative. So now we have the square root of -1. 1 minus 2 is -1. Plus 4 minus a -1 is a 5 squared. We simplify. -1 times -1 is +1. A negative times a negative is a positive. Plus 25. And we have the square root of 26. And so the question, are these equal? No. They have different distances. Okay, does that help? Does that remind you, bring back some things with distance formula? Hopefully it does. Okay, so let's see. Well, let's do another one. Let's do number 14. This is one, I believe, with a midpoint. Okay, so it says if ST has endpoints where S is -6, -1, and T is 0, 1, it says then the midpoint M of ST lies on the x-axis. Okay, is that true? Let's figure it out. Let's find what the midpoint. So essentially what we have to do is find the midpoint. Well, we talked about the midpoint formula earlier, but basically for the midpoint, we just add the x's, divide by 2, and we add the y's, and divide by 2. So there's a midpoint formula again, second time today. All right, so now let's plug in. We're going to put -6 right here with the x and 1. This is just a comma. That's not a number 1. This is just a comma. Okay, so -6 plus 0 divided by 2, because we got to cut in half. Makes sense if you're finding the midpoint. You're going to go halfway. Then we go -1 plus 1 divided by 2. Now let's find it. -6 plus 0 is -6 divided by 2. That's -3. -1 plus 0 is 0. 0 divided by anything is 0. And so our ordered pair is -3, 0. Where is that? Well, if I were to graph this just so that I get a view of it, -6, -1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -1, that's there. And then 0, 1, that would be here. And so where's the midpoint? -3, 0. All right, what's the question? -3, 0, that's the point. What's the question again? Show that each statement is true. Well, I think we've shown it, that it is, this is on the x-axis. All right, questions on 14. I guess we can't ask because we're not in Zoom, are we? Just a recording. All right, let's keep going. Let's do a couple more. Let's see, 15. Nah, that's just another midpoint. You can do that one. Name 2 different rays. 18, that's good. 2 line segments. I have both of them. That you should be able to get those. 17 through 20. 21. Let's take a look at 23. Okay. All right, so 23. 23 says, the sign shows the distances from a rest stop to the exits for different towns along a straight section of highway. The State Department of Transportation is planning to build a new exit to Freestone. Okay, so new exit to Freestone. All right, so at the midpoint of the exits, okay, so we're halfway between Roseville and Edgewood. When the new exit is built, what will be the distances from the exit for Midtown to the exit for Freestone? Okay, makes sense. All right, so I'm going to recreate a diagram here. We know that Midtown is in 17 miles. And we know that Roseville is in 35 miles. Okay, wow, all right. And then Edgewood is 59 miles. Wow, they got a ways to go to Edgewood, about an hour. All right, so what's this saying now? It says the State Department is planning to build a new exit to Freestone at the midpoint of the exits for Roseville and Edgewood. So we're going to put I'm going to do a different color so you can see it. There's going to be a new exit. A new exit right there at Freestone. Now, if it's 35 miles to Roseville and it's 59 miles, well, how much is in between those? Well, if we subtract 59 minus 35 gives me 24. So there's 24 miles. So I don't want to put 24 there because it's not 24 miles to there. It's 35 to here. So, well, but if it's 24 miles in between, what would be halfway? Because they said halfway. Well, let's take that and divide it by 2. I think there's 12 miles in between 35 and 12 miles from 59 that would give us the proper distance of 47 miles to Freestone. Does that make sense? How I did that math? Make sure we're answering everything. Okay. So when the new exit is built, what will be the distance from the exit from Midtown? Okay, so they want to know from Midtown to Freestone. Well, if we know that it's 17 miles here and it's 47 miles here, what's the difference? Well, 47 minus 17, the difference is 30 miles. There's your answer. All right, so now I'm going to make sure you guys understand something very quickly with geometry. Geometry is a little different than algebra. Now, algebra has a little bit of this, but in geometry, you may find an answer and use a different approach. And as long as you show your work, you're not just copying it. And no. That's not good enough just to show your work up in your head. I got to see what's going on so it makes sense mathematically. As long as you show your work, there are multiple ways to get this done. Okay, so, but that is the correct answer. We know that it's 30 miles. All right. Okay, so that's 23. Let's see which other one we want to do. 25, you just do the distance formula. It looks like PR and SQ, so it looks like you're going to be doing it twice. And then you figure out what that length is. It's about 104 is the answer on 25. Let's do 29. That'll be the last one. 29. All right, so if you're turning in on your book on your thing to follow along, so you have a split screen or whatever, so you're trying to see what it is, or if you have it written down already. It says the point M is the midpoint of AB. So M is the midpoint of AB. Segment AB. So if I were going to represent this in a picture, I would have this. Approximately, I didn't measure it, I didn't construct it, but yeah. The coordinates of point A are negative 8, 3. Now, I'm not putting this on a graph. I'm just writing the coordinates in, okay? Now, you could put it on a graph. So, and the coordinates of M are negative 2, 1. Ooh, a little tricky. I see what we're doing. What are the coordinates of B? Okay, so we don't know what those coordinates are. All right, well, here's how you can do it. Now, if you just think logically, all right, just logically, you can just do this, all right? To go from negative 8 to negative 2, how far is that? Positive 6. Well, then I got to go positive 6 to here. So what's negative 2 plus 6? 4. So that's one way to look at it. Pretty simple. If I go from 3 to 1, that's negative 2. And if I go negative 1, well, if it's in the midpoint, it's got to go negative 2 again. So 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So it looks like our coordinate is 4, negative 1. It's that simple. Okay. However, if you try to do it mathematically, which you can using the midpoint formula, this is the midpoint. So negative 2 is equal to negative 8 plus, this was unknown. We didn't know what that was. So I'm just going to call this xy plus x over 2. Now, algebraically, that looks fun. It's been a while since you've done this. Multiply both sides by 2. So I have negative 4 is equal to negative 8 plus x. I have to do the opposite. So I have to add 8. And so I end up with 4 is equal to x. Notice, same thing. I like arrows, by the way. I draw a lot of arrows. Okay. And then if I do the y, where's my y? Right there. 1. 1 is equal to 3. So this solved for x over here, and now I'm solving for y. So then 3 plus y over 2. Now, why do I divide by 2? Because 1 is representative of the midpoint. And by the midpoint formula, we know that we take the two coordinates, we add them together, and divide by 2. The thing is, we just don't know what that coordinate is. That's what we're trying to find. So I'm doing this in two ways. So we just did it kind of logically. And then now we're doing it using the midpoint formula. All right, so again, we're going to multiply by 2. So now I have 2 is equal to 3 plus y. And now I subtract 3 to undo whatever they're doing. And so I have y then is equal to negative 1. And so, what do we have? There's our coordinate. Same answer. All right. Okay. All right. I'm going to upload this one. This is, though, I know this didn't do all the problems, but it should give you a decent sampling of when we did the distance formula a couple times. We worked with the midpoint formula. So it just takes a lot of practice. Okay.